All right, everyone, welcome back to the Midnight Magic Musings channel. I am your humble host, servant, Lord Cephas. I'm joined by the Earl of Florida, and tonight we are doing a very special episode of the Watcher Files because tonight we are going to be previewing The Mandalorian Season 3. First of all, I want to take the time to thank everybody for subscribing, for interacting with us, for liking our videos. Earl, it's been a really big help so far in growing the channel. We really, from the bottom of our hearts, greatly appreciate it. And so, if you do us a favor today, tonight, this morning, whenever you're listening to this or watching this, go ahead and click the like button. That really does help us in the YouTube algorithm. If you're not subscribed, click subscribe. We promise not to inundate you with too much material. We do try to have material out every other day or so just to make sure that we're providing our fans with as much content as possible. It really would help us if you like, subscribe, share this out, share it on social media, if you will. Absolutely, don't press the button, punch the like button, if you will. Be aggressive with it. That's what we need you to do. Earl, how are you doing this evening?
I can't complain. It's been a good weekend, and I'm looking forward to Wednesday.
And what happens on Wednesday, you might be asking? Well,
That tonight we take
ta-da.
over the world. Same thing we do every night.
Indeed, Pinky, that is correct. That's right. It is going to be the debut episode after only 47 years since the last episode, unless you count the last two episodes of the Book of Boba Fett as Mandalorian 2.5. We may talk about that as we go through today, but it is going to be the premiere episode of Mandalorian Season 3 on Disney Plus. And really, that's why we're here to talk, do this particular specific episode. And what we're going to do tonight is, again, it's a little bit different. Using the Watcher Files, the Earl will break down a movie trailer and what his thoughts are. Tonight, we're going to use the Watcher Files to kind of break down a little bit of the history of the Mandalorians, both in cinema, in print, mainly in the legend stories, and some in the Disney Plus series as well. So, Earl, we're going to go ahead and throw it to you if we can. Kind of give us an idea of where does your Star Wars fandom actually begin?
It was a long time ago in a galaxy
That's far, far
far,
away.
far, far away.
I
I
just
think you
walked
were
into
there.
that one. Well, it
Yes,
was a
yes, you
long
did.
time ago based on my age. Yeah, I probably was there.
Well, I'm rocking a little bit of white going on down here. You're baby faced right now, so.
That's right.
But for the majority of us who are in our age bracket or older, a little bit younger, not too much younger, the first interaction with the Mandalorian anything would be in Empire Strikes Back, and that would have been in, let's see, 81, right? No,
81.
80, 81.
It was
And
yeah.
yeah, that was the inclusion of Boba Fett into the Empire Strikes Back. And at that point, he was just, a really cool armored bounty hunter that even it seemed like Lord Vader gave him some respect. And at that point, he respected nobody. Nobody, choking out officers and everything. So when we first meet a Mandalorian, it's Boba Fett, and he has Lord Vader's respect.
Mhm.
And then the next and he actually takes Han Solo, spoiler alert, in a carbonite and takes him off to meet up with Jabba the Hutt. So in the next uh, movie, which is Return of the Jedi, Episode 6, which came out in 83,
1983. Yes. Yes.
and we get to see Boba Fett, and unfortunately it was not quite as an efficient Boba Fett as we were hoping to see. He got,
Led to believe.
thanks to a blind man with an oar, looks like he was knocked into the pit of uh, into the Sarlacc for eternity, as it was explained, to be consumed and digested over a millennia. But even in that brief glimpse of Boba Fett, you got to see the whipcord, which was the wire he shot out. You saw the jetpack in action. You got to see a little bit of stuff that was still pretty cool, despite what happens to him. Now, at that point, that was the end of Boba Fett for
Mm.
years, for decades actually, and until they started producing books back in '91 through what was it, Bantram Publishing was
Mhm.
Timothy Zahn's first you know uh, introduction to the Star Wars universe and Legends. And as his books started coming out, people remembered Boba Fett. They remembered the joy, the intrigue, the awesomeness, or whatever you want to call it. They remember Boba Fett. So they ended up keeping him alive. He escaped the pit of Cancun, there, Sarlacc, and he got out, survived, and continued his stories in print. But as we got to that point, they realized that we don't have to focus just on one single character. His people have a culture. We can follow that along. So that's when they started branching into the Mandalorian culture. Now, so we're kind of up to where we're at in the late '90s,
Mhm.
film wise at least. Then we get the prequel series. You get Jango Fett, so you get another Mandalorian, and you get to see a little bit of that. Find out that Boba Fett's actually Jango's clone. Blah blah blah. The clone
Wait,
army's
J-
clones.
wait, Jango Fett or Commander Cody?
Which one?
Oh, wait, they're the same person. The same series of clones. My bad. I don't know
and
how I'm supposed to tell the difference.
and Captain Rex and Captain.
Go on
Yes.
down the list. Yes.
Now, Karen Travis, who is an author, she actually did a series of books called The Republic Commandos, and she was able to hit into that. So you were introduced a lot more to the culture, into the background, and one of the things that made up a Mandalorian at that point of time was a code called the Raisonnaire. And the Raisonnaire was literally six rules, and you followed those, you were Mandalorian pretty much. And the rules were, where you wear the armor, the Beskar Gam, which is called Iron Skin in Mandoe, their language. You speak the language, Mandoe, obviously. You defend yourself and your elite, your family. You contribute to the clan's welfare. And when called upon, you answer the call of the Mandalore, which is the leader of all the Mandalorians. And obviously, you also raise your children as Mandalorians. So it's not unsimilar to uh, Vikings, kind of, in their culture, in the fact that when you think of Vikings, you think of all these, they're warriors, they're attackers, they're marauders, and that's a lot of the idea for most people when they think of Mandalorians. They think of them as they're bounty hunters, they're mercenaries. That's what they are. But they also had a lot of culture built in, where they were also farmers. They were blacksmiths or silversmiths, because that's what they worked with, the ore they worked with. But I mean, you had uh, tech companies. There was so much more than just a mercenary, but all of them were warriors. That's how they were raised. That's the culture. And for some reason, it was also thought that Mandalorians were humans. Well, Mandalorians in Legends were not originally humans. They were a completely different race of species on a completely different planet that evolved into accepting. Uh, they were called the Tong, and they accepted
Hmm.
other sentient species in and adopted into the culture. And so now the Tong are extinct, but their culture lives on in Legends, of course.
Of course.
So and you have comic books, and you go back like 7,000 years in the comic books, and in some of the high order, the books, and then the Knights of the, you have a lot of Mandalorian culture that can be pulled from with the new Disney. Now with Disney, they switched it up, so you don't I have they have a creed. We've heard that
Hmm.
the clan that Din Djarin has a creed, and there's a few different parts of that creed. Is you don't remove your helmet. You don't break your word, because remember, he could have left Boba Fett in the Mandalorian 2.5 episode.
Hmm.
He goes, "I cannot leave. I've given my word." So I mean, there are a few differences. The Resonator was something that if you live by, you became a Mandalorian, and
Right.
so I think moving into the Mandalorian season 3, we're going to see a big clarification of the differences. Like in Legends, there wasn't always a Mandalore. A Mandalore. There was not always a single sole ruler of all the Mandalorians. It was only needed when they went to war or when they were attacked and they went to war. It wasn't needed all the time because every clan ruled their own clan,
Right.
and there's trading and whatnot as you would expect with clans, but unless there was a Mandalore that was needed, they didn't have one all the time. But it looks like in most of the Disney stuff that there's almost always some form of a Mandalore going on, or there's a vacuum of space and they're trying to fill that role of Mandalore. So that
Is
seems to
that
be.
sort of the Bo-Katan role right now, where we saw things leave off the end of season two?
Yeah, I think so because from what I understand, that links in with the clones, I guess Rebels, and some of the cartoon series. And
Mhm.
so I haven't watched all the cartoon animation ones, so I am unfortunately behind on a lot of the in you know the in canon
Mhm.
information. But there's still also apparently there's also questions of what parts of those animations are actually canon in the live action versions, and what are they going to take from and add to and take away. So it's like it's very interesting because Mandalorian 1 was a gunfire gunslinger. It was a spaghetti western, as
It
we've talked
was.
about.
Mhm.
Gunslinger. The Mandalorian 2 introduced a wider world of everything. But the Mandalorian 3, from the trailer, it looks like we're diving in. We're going to be finding out, and we haven't got to the trailer breakdown part yet, so I won't go into it. But it seems like season 3 of the Mandalorian is going to have a lot of answers, and it's going to say, okay, this is what we're bringing from like the legacies, from the non-canon legends. This is what we're bringing from the cartoon animations, and potentially this is what we're creating on our own, and it's going to stand on its own. So season 3 looks to be is going to be a clarifying season. It's going to be setting the standards for a lot of things in Mandalorian culture, I believe.
Well, let's go ahead and transition into that. If you want to start talking a little bit about season three. Now, we did review the trailer right before we went on, just kind of refresh in our memories what to expect.
Yep.
Um, so I'm going to ask you a few questions that jump out at me because I don't have the written literature history that you have. Now, not only from the books, but my understanding is you've dabbled in doing some Star Wars role playing and some writing in some online forums and situations. We may actually have a guest next week who has also been involved in that. And she also published authors, so I'm certainly playing third in this trio here when that time comes. But help me understand a couple of things.
Okay.
The reliance upon the helmet, not removing the helmet, because I ask of you, and I asked Lady Cephas this earlier yesterday, and her opinion made some sense. I'll throw it out to you. I'm simply confused why you can't take your helmet off. Because
Okay.
surely you got to wash your hair, scrub your face, eat, because otherwise you'd fall over after about 7 days of not eating or drinking. You'd be done. What is the significance of taking the helmet off that is so taboo in the Mandalorian series, at least from your understanding?
Well, for clarification, if you recall, go back to season 1 when they were on the one planet with the ATs, the
Yes.
walkers.
Hmm.
Remember, he was given a bowl and he went to he was in the room with the door shut and he had to eat. So he did remove his helmet to eat that, but no one was in there with him. If you recall that, it's just a brief
That's true.
thing. But up to that point, every time they were at a pub or a bar, Grogu was eating or drinking, and he was like, "No." So,
Right.
but he does remove his helmet in the seasons. Just he's by himself because as you said, he needs to have some personal hygiene going on,
We would
or that
hope.
or we would hope. So I mean, and we've seen that even before he removed his helmet and got in trouble, that he did remove his helmet for things just as long as nobody saw his face and he was secluded. Now, as for the removing the helmet, that is so they're part of a clan that adheres to a different form of code or creed,
Hmm.
and in the expanded universe that's no longer canon of Star Wars, uh, the clans pretty much they all obeyed the Resonator, but there were a few difference that one would wore commas a lot, which are they're almost like the kilt looking things that they wear
Hmm.
in some of the Clone Wars that some of the commanders or captains wear. That's called
Right.
a comma. It's just a belt with extra pockets and stuff like that. Um, so some clans that was part of their battle dress, and some clans didn't wear it because they didn't want to look like they were wearing a dress or whatever. So, and some of them, again, in legends, there because of where they came from, there was a religious belief that came from the Tong, the original progenitors of the Mandalorian culture,
Hmm.
and where they believe that warriors, it, not dissimilar to the Klingons, where it's a good death. You if you die, as a Mandalorian, your soul will go to the Manda, which is where all Mandalorian souls go to, and there's potential to be reborn. Blah 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 blah. So there is a religious mythological aspect in the uh, the expanded universe that's no longer canon, but it's not adhered to strictly. There's one clan will do it, one clan will ignore it, one clan will be biased against it. So it's very sporadic. But in the Mandalorian, it appears that uh, the way of the Mandalore is one of the things that it was called with the tribe, and the Children of the Watch is what the tribe was called. So I mean, it appears that if anybody who's familiar with both either the expanded universe or the cartoons, I'm assuming that's tied to Death Watch,
Okay.
and we'll find out more in season 3. But it looks like this may be a part of this particular clan's religious beliefs, in that you cannot take off your helmet. Why exactly? That was never specifically stated that I can recall. Maybe once you become a Mandalorian in that clan, your personal features don't matter anymore. It's your Beskar gam, your iron skin that makes you a Mandalorian. It's interesting, and from the trailer, there is some jabs at his outdated religious clan, and
Well,
so we good.
no, I think it's interesting that one of the things that Bo Katan says in that trailer is she refers to his group, his clan, if you will, as a cult that literally destroyed their people. How do you interpret that? Is that just a throwaway line of two feuding Mandalorians, or do you think that's something they might choose to explore in season 3 and potentially even a season 4?
Oh, I absolutely think that line ties them in with Death Watch,
Okay.
which has two different origins and two different endings, depending on if you're going with the expanded universe or with the current animation in you know uh, technically canon at the moment universe.
Hmm.
So there are. I can't speak too much into this because there are spoilers
Do you say there are spoilers?
uh, about Death Watch, so I don't want to go into spoiling it.
Okay.
But the group that she was speaking about, the group that they're part of, they're looking at being responsible for the catalyst, the cataclysm that mostly destroyed Mandalore.
Gotcha.
So, so there is some legitimacy behind her words for if they are in fact affiliated with Death Watch, which it appears so, that they bear some responsibility in the breaking of of their planet and also of their people, because they also battled with other segments of Mandalorian clans and houses. And again, I can't really get into it, but if
Mhm.
anybody's familiar with the Darth Maul arc, that ties in with it. And yeah, so there is some, again, spoilers that I can't really get into and explain anything, that I can see we're going to get some some ideas of what that's about, as well as probably some flashbacks. And what do you think about those temple scenes with those Jedi?
So this is just a gut opinion. Like you
Mm,
were saying earlier, I think we are finally going to get to see Order 66 through the eyes of Grogu. I mean, this is something that Disney will not let die, no pun intended. And I think finally you're going to see that shot from his position, looking straight ahead and what he saw. And I'm going to make a bold prediction here. No one's going to like it except me, and that's okay, except for the Wonder Twins over on the couch, Lola and Henry. They support their father. But other than that, I believe that you will see a surprise appearance by Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker. And I believe he is going to spare his life only because of the race of people he looks like. That he looked like Master Yoda.
wouldn't that
And
make you want to kill them more? You denied me, Master
I
of the
think
Council.
I feel like he took all that out on Mace Windu.
There
Uh,
is so much sand here. Ah.
I it's just not right on so many levels. Um,
You look like a sand people.
it's just gone off the rails tonight.
It has.
I'm
It's
just gonna sip my unsweet tea and just let you have it. Just let you run all
uh,
over the place, run amok, if you will.
okay.
But
So you think that he's going to spare Grogu because of his resemblance to Master Yoda? I would think that would push him the other direction. But you know what?
well,
I'm
here's the only thing. If indeed that's the case and he goes the other direction, then the question again becomes who saved him? Who was gonna step in front of that lightsaber and fight him off? And if you say Ahsoka,
you know, point five is going to happen, and where else do it? Even though it would break some of the animation timeline, you're trying to push Asaka over, or you could have somebody else that they're going to have introduced in Asaka. But
could
I
do
think
that.
I think they're going to push this to tie it in and get people, and you know what? It's a golden opportunity. Why not?
Sure. Well, they're in a position right now where, and who would have ever thought that post Star Wars coming back, we'd ever use this terminology. They need the fans to rally around and really embrace their properties right now because the last few have had some struggles, and so
Yeah.
Mando still has shine on it. Let's not do anything to take that shine off. And there's some things we could talk about, but we've talked about in other shows. We won't cover it again here. I think it's gonna be very interesting to see what they do with season three because my assumption is they want a season four and a
Yeah.
season five, even though I honestly think it was probably meant to end after about season four, but the popularity of Grogu has certainly extended the value of it in a lot of ways.
Well,
Um,
here's a
but
question for you.
yeah,
Um, do we? When will we, or will we ever, in the Mandalorian series, ever see Grogu advance either in her ability to speak or ability to act? I mean, he doesn't. He's back in his little uh, bassinet,
yeah.
floating bassinet. He still has yet to speak, but apparently he can share images and thoughts. But when will we ever get a an advance past this version of Roku?
So here's how I would see it in my weird opinion. I think he is the Mandalorian. I think ultimately that's how the series ends, where this is the story really about Grogu being a Mandalorian because he's part of the clan. It's a clan of two right now. but it's a clan nonetheless. And I think ultimately the story ends with him at, uh, Din's funeral, recounting to people the story of Din and what he did. And I truly think that's where the story ends. And I think at that point, you will have seen him advance. Maybe not throughout the series. They might just advance him at the very end of the series. And then spin him off into possibly movies, which I think ultimately is where that's going to go, um, for for the Grogu character. I don't think his end is in the Mandalorian. In fact, I would see
Yeah.
it going much further. And that's what I think. I think you might see little breakthroughs here and there, little words spoken or whatever. Obviously, he's got new force abilities he didn't have before, so the
Yeah.
training with Luke must have paid off at some point. Um, by the way, not necessarily Mando related, but sort of is. This is a question asked by my friends on Echo Base Network the other night. Great channel. If you are looking for Star Wars content, go there. They do a one. Coach does a wonderful job over there. But here's a question I'll ask you that we were talking about, and that is simply this: who trained less, Luke or Grogu?
Well, that's a good question. We don't know how much he trained as a youngling.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know how old he is fully, and so and we don't know how the midichlorian counts work with his species. You
Right.
know, um, when they in the universe, they tested young kids, tested their midichlorian counts, and I guess either those levels, whatever they are when you're a kid, are the same levels you are when you're older. Because when they tested Anakin, the chosen one, they're like, yeah, his midichlorian count is off the charts, even higher than Master Yoda's.
Right.
How how's that possible? You know, so I'm under the assumption that they probably stay the same. The levels as you grow older, they just you learn to tap into them. So depending on how long he was a youngling and how many years he trained, we don't know how old he is fully yet. So we can't guess to how much training he has. Plus, how long was he with Luke?
At least 3 episodes of the Boba Fett series, it would seem.
So
Um,
I mean, he also got to the point, and of course, we don't know what kind of teacher this particular Luke Skywalker is. He gave him his own little lightsaber. I'm not giving anybody, especially a little kid looking thing, a lightsaber where you can poke your eye out. We all seen those memes of Luke Skywalker and the most dangerous weapon in the galaxy. First thing he does.
yes, I know exactly where you're going with that.
I love that meme. But I mean, what Luke Skywalker couldn't give somebody who's obviously not going to get any more training with that lightsaber.
Hmm.
So he has to be confident in his ability. So either he had that, training early in his life that the memories were unlocked or whatever, or he got even more training with Luke Skywalker at this point. So you know what?
Well,
He may have more time under his belt than Luke Skywalker did in Return of the Jedi, but Luke Skywalker's training was not to be a Jedi. His training was he was designed to as a weapon to take out
right.
Vader.
Which again goes into my theories and thoughts about the Jedi's duplicitous nature. But that's for another show that people can get mad at me about.
Now, here's
Um,
one for you. I have a
yeah.
question for you. We've
Okay.
talked about it before, and I know we're running late, but we've talked about it before. What do we have to do? Obviously, we know they're wanting to do a Ray, Grogu, probably a Chewbacca, whatever movie
Yeah.
or whatever. But what do we do to really, start over, hit the reset? We jump hundreds of years into the future. Let's go half a millennia into the future, right?
Okay.
Okay, here's the interesting part. We now have a character that existed in the prequel series,
Hmm.
existed through the OG trilogy, exists in the movies that take place in between, and conceivably, since he's going to potentially be in a movie with Ray on their own, will exist there. That same character, Grogu, conceivably will still be alive 500 years in the future and will only be middle aged. So if you want a character that ties everything together, you have it right here this little green mucus colored gremlin,
I
and
that's a that's a fascinating point. I hadn't thought about that. Disney might have backed into something, maybe even by accident, been like, we got something to tie it all together. And honestly, I don't think Ray's that character
no,
because I just didn't see her character get the support from the fan base. Obviously, Finn has moved on. Poe has moved on. At least they're not being mentioned for roles, at least now in the upcoming movie
yeah,
franchise. I think if you're going to unify the generation, so to speak, I think Grogu is as good an option as you're ever going to find.
yeah,
Um,
and
bec-
you can still jump the hundreds and hundreds of years in the future, where you're away from the Skywalker Palpatine
and,
story.
and I've argued with you, and we talked about it offline plenty of times. That's really where the franchise needs to go: is get away from the Skywalkers. So
Yep.
you're not tethered to that story. You can still reference them. You may
Yeah.
even run into a descendant 500 years from now of the Skywalkers. I guess he would have to be Ray's child, though, or great, 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 great grandson or granddaughter or whatever. But you could
Not necessarily.
you could make it work. Well, Luke didn't have any kids, as far as we know.
We
He never met Mara Jade. Apparently, that never happened because that's
or
all.
it just was it shown on screen. Maybe that was the real reason. She had kids. They're twins. They annoyed the heck out of him, and he's like, you know what? If they're going to turn out like this kid, I'm just going to get rid of the nephew. I'm going to get rid of the kids. Get rid of this whole stinking academy. I want to be kid free. That's the real reason he went out there is because toddler terrible twos.
Folks, I'm sorry that you had to witness this mental breakdown on the part of the Earl of Florida. I'll
I'm
ask
going to
one
go drink.
question to save what's left of our dignity on this show, and that is: should we expect a visit or some type of crossover? Will Boba Fett make an appearance in Mando season 3?
That's an interesting question because in Boba Fett, the season one or the Book of Boba Fett or whatever you want to call it, wasn't it kind of mentioned a few different times that he's technically not a Mandalorian?
Well, I think it was hinted pretty strongly at that he was not
He wears his
a
father's armor. That's it.
practicing member of that society, if you will.
So, and that's one thing that has some of the fans uh, in irate is because in the Legends in the expanded universe, Boba Fett actually ends up becoming Mandalore in the future.
Hmm.
This version will never be Mandalore.
Well, at least
Not
not the way they've set
yeah,
it up
not
right now.
not the current way he is right now. I mean, so honestly, since he's not a Mandalore, he's not Mandoid. Uh, I don't see I don't see him being needed on Mandalore.
Hmm.
But if they're wanting to do a Boba Fett season two, we will see him on Mandalore. It just depends on if they want that or not. Now, before you make me stop talking about Mandalorian stuff, there are two things in the Legends that I really, really, really want to see. Just two things. Okay, the first thing is the Best Bev, which is a Mandalorian flute. So it's musical. It's the arts. It's also a dagger, kind of like a stiletto blade. So you can be playing it. We're celebration, and then the next day you're in battle and you're hand to hand combat, and your hand goes for your dagger, misses the dagger, but your flute's there. That's just as good. Takes it out, stabs somebody to death. Great. I want to see that in action. I want to see it. I want to see it. I want to see it.
Didn't we see
I want.
that? Didn't we see the Green Ranger have that in Power Rangers? Same thing.
It's not the same thing,
Sure
and
looks
there's no
like.
giant
Sure
robot
sounds
coming.
like it. Oh, okay
Okay,
then.
so we're not going to see the best Bev. I know that. That's just something that the Earl of Florida would love to see. But this
O
one,
for one.
I'm 0 for 1. But this one, I want to see. Now, this is called a basilisk war droid, or in the Mandoe language, it's a basilisk, which means iron beast.
Okay.
Uh, Pretty much, it's a giant robotic flying animal. Think like a robot dragon.
Okay.
Okay, it doesn't exactly look like her. It doesn't have the serpentine neck, and it has uh, like fighter engines for how it flies, not wings. But I
Sure.
mean, there's so many different variations of it. But these are their war droids, and these war droids actually, because of programming, they can imprint on their owner, and they're also connected to their heads up display and their helmet. They're part of them. They almost act like dogs. They follow around, and they also have a form of artificial intelligence. Now, not only can they ride them into battle, but they also have their own weaponry. Like they can have blasters and rockets and shockwave generators and EMP generators and laser cannons and fire off space mines. And they also have an option of having a canopy where the rider would ride on it, so they could actually be utilized almost like a spaceship as well, a transformer spaceship almost.
So, would you classify this as the Star Wars version of How to Train Your Dragon?
It could be, but you know what? If you're going to show Mandalorians like that, this is just another part of their culture. This is their war mount too. It's also like their horse or their dog or their something like that, part of the family almost. And there is some intelligence there,
Mhm.
and they're flying a tank or or something
Sure.
along those lines. So I would love to see that. I don't know if we'll ever see that, but it would be beautiful to see. I mean, can you imagine a dozen Mandalorians flying these like flying tanks with engines hooked to them that are like smart, that have artificial intelligence?
Oh,
That'd
dude,
be
I love the idea of it. I just worry with the CEO Bob Iger talking about
yeah,
them cutting back on their production budgets and cutting back on their offerings. I don't know that that would happen unless this was shot already and it was already pretty much in the
yeah,
works. Then yes, I can see it. But the way they're talking now, I don't. I mean, it's enough that they did a green screen most of season two, most of, not
yeah.
all.
Most of it.
I'd love to see it. I think it'd be wicked cool to see. I just don't know that they're going to put the financial investment. But again, as long as Mandalorian stays popular, that is their flagship show.
Yeah.
That is what put Disney Plus on the map. It was the show that started it.
Yep.
It hasn't been Marvel shows that have put them on the map. A little bit of WandaVision, a little bit of
Yeah.
Loki,
A little bit of Loki.
but I think you'll see Mandalorian again probably have it further up the charts than a lot of these most recent series for Star Wars and Marvel for
And
what
and
they've produced.
the first episode is what, only like 32 or 33 minutes long, I think I was told. Less
It's
than 40 minutes.
it's very short, yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, apparently they're on the Moon Knight plan for episode length. But
So, is there anything else in the trailer you want to talk about? Mr. Apollo Creed OG version.
listen, I love me some Carl Weathers, whether he's Apollo Creed or whether he was Chief Hamilton Forbes and In the Heat of the Night. Yes, I'm old and I watched that show and I still love it to this day. Um, I enjoy seeing him on there. It's going to be interesting to see, and we'll try to stay uncontroversial here, how they work around the whole Cara Dune thing, because it was very clear from the end of last season they were going to spin her off into the Rangers.
Yeah,
I think this is just an opinion. I think she was going to end up being royalty from Alderaan. I really believed that's where they were going with her. That's why she was fighting the Empires because of what happened to her home planet. I'm in the minority probably on that thought. Just crazy thoughts I have when it's just me with nothing to do but listen to the voices in my head. We won't get that, but I think that might have been interesting. So we're going to see. Where do they go with season three as they're looking into season four, possibly season five, Favreau says. Hopefully the fan base is still there for it. We were talking about it a little bit earlier on another show that I was participating in. It's pretty simple, dude. You know what? Make a show with a good story and with good characters. Watch the money roll in.
yep,
Make a story and characters that you as the studio want to see. Watch the diminishing returns And so, for every production that comes out anymore, that's what I'm looking for. Did you write this to appeal to people, or is this what you thought as a studio you wanted to see? And that's really
Yep.
where the rubber meets the road. And I'm optimistic that Favreau will do a great job with season three as he did with one and two. Has it been a perfect series? No,
No.
not even close. Has it been a very even keeled series?
Mm,
Season one was a little
season
more
one.
even kill. Yeah, season two
Yeah.
was sort of here and over there.
Well, season two was also, and which I think is part of the problem, like you're talking about, launching Boba Fett.
Yeah, and I get why they did it because you have a very popular IP. Use
Yeah.
that to relaunch or dip your toes back into some nostalgia. Really coming out of that season finale, uh, where Luke is revealed and just he just laid the smack down on everything in sight. That got a lot of people in the
Oh
feels.
yeah.
I sat there and watched it in my home with my best friend. Well, Broken Ansible was there, and there were tears of happiness and joy shed because it reminded us of our childhood for just a moment.
Yeah.
Just a moment. There was no controversy over who fired whom and or this or that or about who's a good force user and who's not. It's just in that moment we could enjoy it.
Yeah.
Now you got a lot of goodwill. I, yeah, for any IP. Don't screw it up. Don't
Yeah.
keep giving the people a good story and character arcs and character growth. They're going to be with you, and I really believe we will see that. But I am interested to see the first episode because it's so short.
Mhm.
What they're really able to accomplish, or is it just hey, we're setting the foundation, which is fine. You
Yeah.
can do that and still have a good episode, but that doesn't give you a lot of time
No, it
to
doesn't.
work within those confines. And so I'm excited to see what happens uh, come Wednesday evening when I finally am able to sit down. It means I will not be on social media, so no one spoils anything for me, so I can actually sit down and watch it with my family. We get to do that.
Well, it probably will it drop in the morning or does it drop at 7 o'clock in the evening?
Oh, if I remember, I was dropping like at 3 in the morning last time. Is what it did. So
So
you'd
watch it
have
early.
yeah, you'd have people be up at like 2 o'clock in the morning their time, watching it. Good on you. I need my beauty sleep, and trust me, I ain't getting enough of it, as you can tell. So I will wait for later in the afternoon or in the evening. Um, but Earl, anything else you want to share with the fans about the Mandalorians, or anything in particular you're looking forward to as we get ready to wrap this up?
I just, as we've said, we grew up watching this stuff, and a lot of the people that watch this, they're Star Wars fans. We don't
Mhm.
want it to suck. We want it
Nope.
to be good. We want it to be
Right.
great. We're rooting for this, and anybody that's rooting against something, like we're Star Trek fans, we're Star Wars fans, we're Marvel fans, we like DC.
Mhm.
I'd even say we're DC fans.
Yeah.
We want all of these to succeed because we want to watch these IPs. We want to see more movies, more TV shows. We want to see
Yeah.
good stuff. So we are rooting for these shows. We're not looking for them to fail because that just hurts the fandom because we won't get another movie or show if they tank.
Exactly.
And so, we're on here and we're talking about these things because we love them,
Right.
and we're talking about these things because we want to see more of them. So there's so much, there's a lot of stuff that I'd want to throw in and change, but you know what? Give me something that hits me in the feels. Give me something
Hmm.
that is concise. Give me something that's fun, and you know what? I don't think I'll have anything to complain about. Just give me cover the basics of what Star Wars fans want to see, which is something fun, exciting, and hits you in the feels.
So
That's all.
season one, and we'll get ready to wrap this up. Season one was very much the gunslinger,
Yep.
even with the not the intro but the outro. When they're leaving, that Western motif,
Yeah.
perfect.
Exactly.
It's always been said, Earl. Oh, everybody wants to see lightsabers and all that stuff. That's true, but I also want to see I want to see blasters
Oh
and
yeah.
laser pistols. I want to see ships, and we're going to get to see some of that. I want to see places that are new to me, but yet they're identifiable to me. Even if I've never
Hmm.
been to that planet looks like something I imagine fits into the Star Wars universe. And I think, hopefully, that's where we'll end up. And I think hopefully you'll see a lot of entertainment value. And
Hmm.
hopefully that sets up for future seasons and maybe some additional projects as well. Because I think some of those additional projects they've announced probably need a little bit of help. Uh,
Yeah, you got Asaka, then you got the other one with Jude Law. I
yep.
forget what that one's called. So yeah, I'm curious to see how it ties in. Myself personally.
Again, it's like Marvel; it's all related, right?
Yep.
And we haven't even gotten to talking about Ahsoka and the introduction of Thrawn and where is where is where is my Bridger? Where is Ezra? We well, I'll just leave that alone. We'll talk about that another day. Well, he is the Earl of Florida. I am Lord Cephas. Thank you so much for taking time to listen to this. Before you head out, hit the like button, click subscribe if you haven't done so, and by all means leave a comment. We love to interact with everyone. But having said that, again, Lord Cephas, the Earl of Florida, we appreciate your time. We will be back on Thursday night for Midnight Magic Musings, and we'll probably have some shorts and other things in between to keep you all entertained. So, on behalf of the Earl, I'm the Lord. Love you. Appreciate you. We'll see you again here soon.
Peace.
So long, everybody.